5/16s. And I bought this plow like, oh God, it's got to be almost 40 years ago. I was just a teenager yet, for $200 on a consignment auction. Maybe about 15 to 20 years ago, I found another one that was a 4-bottom, just like it. I bought for parts. So this thing hasn't really costed me a whole lot through all these years. We haven't been plowing every year, but since the rye has been really growing out on us, we've been using this a lot more, and I'll explain more when I get going here. But I was just going to have you guys take a good look at what I got going on here. We got her on the 7510 today. I got her all cleaned up, got all the manure off the windows and everything. She's got a side hitch on her, which came off the plow I bought for parts, which that all worked out nice, but she's getting pretty wore out. Like here, the tip is gone on him, but it still pretty much do the job. He's supposed to look like this one. There's that hardened tip there. So you got several parts. Seems like people kind of like this tillage stuff, and it's kind of getting to be kind of rare by us, so we'll talk more when we get going. It's May 6th today. We have about 20 acres of rye to plow under. It's been raining about every other day, but really nice rains. Everything's really gotten ahead of us. I would have liked to have this done several days ago, but it'll still work out. It's not late. It's an awful lot of growth there. There's a lot of manure spread in that, so we're not going to harvest that. I have never done like that before anyway, but what I want to use it for is green manure. So what we have down here is this was taken off with corn silage last fall, and then probably by mid-September was planted into oats and rye. So the oats grew really fast to start with, and then the rye, you know, got established late in the fall, and then that took over here in the spring, and it's a beautiful crop. It's doing just what it's supposed to do. It's what they call green manure. I mean, back in egg class, that's what they call it. If you plowed under some sort of hay or green growth, it was green manure. Like I said, there's a lot of manure in here, which is great. This is going to really put out. So I'm going to get started. Couple years we've had to plow simply because of the rye is getting quite overgrown. I think it's better. I choose not to spray, at least not to cover crop out. That Roundup, I got a feeling, has gotten some bad raps, maybe for overusing it. Now, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do, and everybody's got their opinion on these type of things, but these heavy bottoms, we get a better, you know, the corn starts off better. There's fairly level down here. The soil is very heavy. There's no rocks. I mean, it has its place to use the sprays on the steeper stuff. But down here, this is going to be the real way to go. So what happens here, when you plow this plant under, it acts as a fertilizer. So now we planted the oats and the rye in the fall. It sucked up all the nutrients that are left in the soil, or a lot of the nutrients, so that if you did get heavy snows and rains and runoffs, those nutrients stayed inside those plants. Now when you plow them under, they start to break back down and they feed this year's crop. And instead of, you know, like if you just put on like conventional fertilizers, you know, you could very possibly have runoff into your rivers and streams with that stuff. And it's expensive. So it's basically you're growing your fertilizer, or you're like capturing what you have there in the land, which there's a lot of manures put on this. As you can see, it's very beautiful soil. It's just like ancient food cake. It's kind of one of them things it's hard to do when you haven't done it yet. As the years go by, it gets better and better, and so I can compare where I have done it and where I haven't. So where we take the dry grain off, we haven't put cover crop in because it's too late, or it just wouldn't turn out as nice. It'd still be good, it just wouldn't be as good. So, but we can see the difference. So now here what we got, where the center of this field was dry, you know, there was corn standing here yet when I put the rye in. And then so we planted the rye all the way around. So a little over half this field has been rye. We'll see the differences as the crop grows, where the cover crop has been and where it hasn't been. I'm trying to adjust my plow here. So we got to set our depth. So the back is just on float. There's a cylinder back there. This is what they call semi-mounted. So there's a wheel in the back that supports it. And then you got your gauge wheel. That's the other one out on the side there. A little bit wet in this spot. I can see just a little bit of water standing in the furrow. I started this yesterday just to give it one try, but a little wet yet. I gave it another day. Yeah, you can see all the manure's down in that rye, which I love it. It's all going to stay put. So that's really the key to it, that whatever we put in these fields, to keep them in these fields, and as we take a crop off, to bring it back and then use stuff like rye, and to keep the field as green as you can keep it all year round. The only time this field is not green is between now and the time the corn canopies, which might be only 2 months of the year. And then we take off the corn silage, of course, in September, immediately plant the oats and rye. The oats seems to come up really quick, and the rye takes a little longer to establish, but then that one holds out over winter. The oats dies by Christmas, that one is done. So it's kind of like a double deal, and it's cheap for what it does for you. Price of conventional fertilizers, I mean, this way of farming is going to keep your soils fertile longer, where the conventional fertilizers you put on, you get a nice punch out of them, but they don't stay. The plants use them up pretty quick, and then some of it leaches down and with the rains, and all depends on the soils and how you do it, but that's generally how it works. At least that's how I see it. Now, I don't have all the answers, and some might say, oh, this is not the best way to do things. Well, in some places they're right. And the rye here is probably a little over a foot tall. Now, if I move too fast, what happens is it throws the dirt further than it should. I don't think it covers it as nice. I mean, this plow is not made to move more than, I mean, we're just a little over 4 miles an hour. I really think the key to getting done in the field is just to keep moving. Even if you're moving slow, you're still accomplishing, you're getting done. I mean, typically, you can drive really, really fast, and if things break or you screw stuff up because of it, you don't really get done quicker anyway. But as long as you keep moving, I think that's what gets you done. That kind of goes with everything. Give it time to do what it's supposed to do. Yeah, my dad, we grew up with moldboard plowing. I mean, pretty much a moldboard plow. My dad had a plow just like this, and my brother still has it. And then a disc and a digger. And then later on, he did get a chisel plow for some of the more steeper fields. You know, as the machinery got better to handle some of the hills, we started doing some of that too. But all the heavy bottoms still got moldboard plowed, and he was a firm believer right up to the end on that. I think the downside to it is you're risking erosion, but with all this sod in the soil, I don't think it's nearly as big of a risk. But where you got bare ground, you'd always plow in the fall after the crops are off. That was kind of the trend all the way around here, and I really got to say, in our area, the ones that were religious about moldboard plowing always had really nice crops every time. It's going to be about 75 degrees today, so it's perfect. It's time to go. So they're talking rain before morning again, which would be great if we could get all this plowed, and then it rains on it, settles it back down, and then after that it sounds like a stretch of just some spotty shower stuff and mostly sunny and partly cloudies, and I guess corn planting weather. I guess if there's any questions on this tractor, it's got 18-438s on the rears and 115 horse. Probably one of my more favorite tractors. There was one that sold like that
R&M motors, I believe. 7510. I think the thing only had like 13 hours on it. It's where an implement bought it, just put it in the shop as like a collector. It had tools on it. It brought 192,000 on this auction. Went up to Canada. I'd like to know if the guy is using it for farming or just gonna do the same thing. To me, I think it'd be a shame not to use it. Just take care of it, you know, put some hours on it. This one here has got almost 5,000 hours on. I home manure with it. I do a lot of stuff with this tractor because it's my mid-size all-around tractor, and I think it's in pretty darn good shape yet. Maybe not be too much longer. It'll need a set of tires again, but that can make it new again. So I don't know. We're gonna see where we can put you guys here. We're gonna put you on top of the steering, right on top of the back axle that holds the plow when it's not in the ground. We'll see how that works for a while here. Oh yeah, hold on tight, because if I lose you, I think that's gonna be end of the chin. So this would be our dead furrow. I know they're probably talking 6, 7, 8 inches or roughly we're going in. And then this is the part I like. I don't know if you can see that. All those fine roots. You don't see that where you don't have this cover crop. Those fine roots, you know, it helps the water go in and all the soil. Now, like I said, we've gotten, oh God, 3.5 inches of rain over the last week and a half. Nice rains, of course, but you know, soaking. This is heavy bottoms. This is typically my wetter ground, and it's not sticking to the tires. It's quite damp, but it crumbles right apart. So even if it rains tonight, again on top of this, it'd probably settle it some and would go over it with the turbo till to groom it a bit. But even to look at the rye, I think this stuff is like past my knees in places. I mean, not too far. 3 feet tall. And look at the tractor wheels. You know, just up to the axles. This guy starts thinking if you needed feed, you'd want to harvest this. Again, then you're just kind of robbing from it again. So I think we're going to get a good bunch of corn out of this, and without putting nothing more than a little bit of starter on. Alrighty, we got to keep going. Maybe we'll check in a little later on again.
So this plowing is a lot like art. Smaller, crooked fields. Typically want to plow your soil uphill if you can. And you typically don't want to start a young man out driving tractor going plowing until you start the field. We got a big enough field, it probably is, you know, they could probably get the hang of it without, you know, messing it up. But what I like to do is typically plow away from the creek towards the road bank, kind of keep your field even, and then the next year you may want to plow it the other way, you know, or every third year or something. When you moldboard, you want to bring the soil back. So here's my controls. There's like a little notch underneath this little tab. Kind of see it there, and that's adjustable with this here dial, and that sets my depth. And then, being that I got a semi-mounted, I have this lever that controls the back cylinder. That's in float position right now, so it's not carrying any weight. All the weight is on the gauge wheel. That wheel there rolling way on the outside in. The other one is just kind of just trailing along is all. It's not really doing anything until you lift the plow out of the ground. I could give you guys some more great shots. Throw this camera underneath the plow there, but the rye is so tall that I'm scared I'm going to lose my camera. And if I do, I think it's gone forever. So if you look back, I had a plowing video with the 1066 in the fall, and I think I did one, maybe it's 2 years ago now, I'm not sure, with the rye. Who doesn't like tillage? I guess if you're a farmer, it's kind of in you. It's not always the thing you should do, but I think in some cases it should be done. Beautiful time of the year, lots of excitement, looking into planting and all that and how things turn out. So we'll keep you guys posted with more videos. Okay, we're back. We're on our second field, our big field. This one's like 14 acres. I did drive one pass through the field. The rye is so tall, I'm having a hard time figuring out where the dead furrow was last year. But I think I got it. So we're going to plow the opposite of last year. Last year we started on the edge, pushed it out. This year we're going to push it in. So there we are, and we're going to have to cut this field through at least twice. So I'm trying to do this so that it's going to be somewhat even when I get all done. So what I did is I dropped my plow a little bit lower because my right wheel is not in the furrow yet until I make these first two passes. But you kind of see what I'm doing now, so just so she covers up the rye. And we got our dead furrows made. And for instance, if you had it inexperienced person that was going to want to plow for you. This is the part the experienced guy wants to do, is get the field started. And then they can just follow the furrow. And I think through time, like everything, you get good at it. You want it to look like you knew what you were doing, even though sometimes you don't always get it right, but years and years. This rye is just beautiful out here. Again, like I said before, there's a lot of manure down in here. It's really doing everything it should do. This is kind of near the highway too, but I always get good emergence with my corn. It's usually looking sharper than a lot of the no-tills. So we know we're on the right page as far as doing good for things. Yeah, the soil here is a little more clay-like, not quite as loamy as the other field, but it is also not nearly as wet as the other field. For all the rain we had, I mean, it's like it never rained, you know, as far as it's not muddy, it's not sticky, it's rolling over nice, and it's not sloppy, and